Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Thursday, June the 17th, and welcome to our video commentary. Well, the famous Biden-Putin meeting finally happened, and not much is going to happen because of it. I mean, there was all these expectations, and it turns out to be, I don't think anything is going to happen necessarily with Putin. Now, I'm not saying that Putin is a good guy. He's not. And obviously, he's an adversary. He is. But I think that the whole focus of this summit, blowing up the importance of Putin, underestimates what I think are two much bigger threats to the United States from two actors who I think we're gonna have to keep an eye on. One of them is Iran. They're the ones right now who are sending ships to Venezuela. And of course, China and Taiwan. Because I think that's, if there's a war, that's what is probably going to take place or start. So yes, I mean, it's great that Biden met Putin, and it's wonderful, and they both came out and told us how strong they are, but I don't really think that it will make that much of a difference. You know, I was thinking, I have a post at the American Thinker today talking about how these meetings are generally, pretty insignificant. There've only really been two in recent history that have been very consequential. The first one between President Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev in '61. And the second one, of course, between President Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev in 1986. The one between Kennedy and Khrushchev was very bad. And Khrushchev walked away from that meeting thinking he could get away with anything. And then shortly after that, you had the situation in Berlin that eventually led to the construction of the wall. You had, the Soviets talking very loud. And most of all, of course, you had nuclear missiles in Cuba that brought the two nations to the brink of a nuclear war. That was all because Khrushchev walked away from the meeting with Kennedy thinking he could get away with something. The Gorbachev-Reagan meeting of '86 was the exact opposite, because it was very clear to Gorbachev immediately that Reagan was tough and was willing to be very tough with the Soviet Union and do whatever he had to do to promote American interest. And I think Gorbachev understood at that moment that he was on the wrong side of history and that his system was bound to fail. Well, 3 years later, the Berlin Wall collapsed, and 5 years later, the USSR was no longer a country. And so these are the lessons, I think, that sometimes you learn from these missions. I think that we have to keep an eye. We have to keep an eye on Iran, and especially on China, because that's where I think the problems, of course, with Iran in the Middle East, that could set off a very nasty war, and with China and Taiwan. As far as Putin is concerned, we should do sanctions and make it very costly for him to misbehave. But I do think the problem is China. That's where I think the problem is, and that's where I hope that our foreign policy is tough, because that's where we have a showdown coming with China at some point in the 21st century. And we better get ready for that, as well as making the American people ready for what could be a war with China down the road. Thank you for watching. And if today is your birthday, happy birthday. Bye-bye, everybody.